Hey everybody, I'm here with Joel Sheltrown running for State Senate 36th District, going against Michelle Hoytinga this election. Joel, thanks so much for hopping on with us.
Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. And so you are from West Branch, so you know about Northern Michigan, you know of Northern Michigan, you know what goes on in our area. So what do you think the biggest issues are concerning our area?
Well, there's tourism is always an important part of our industry. Housing is a huge problem right now. It's also, the employment situation, finding enough people to fill the jobs that are needed.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and I did want to touch on housing especially because at our station, we're trying to bring in reporters, and it's tough finding a place just for them to live when they come on over. So what can we do about that? How can we free up some space and, allow people to come here? And I know that has a big effect on the worker shortage too. So how are we going to address that?
Well, one of the ideas that I have is called assignable tax credits. And without getting too much into the weeds, how that works is you build an apartment complex, rental unit, you would be allowed a certain amount of assignable tax credits, and that's different than regular tax credits, because assignable tax credits you could sell to someone else who has a tax obligation to the state of Michigan, and you could use those funds to help defray the cost of building the building. So it lowers your costs. It makes it more attractive to go into that field.
And you also mentioned tourism. So obviously Northern Michigan is such a beautiful place, so we want to bring people here so they can see it too. So how are we going to drive that tourism and get the businesses around our area as well booming and getting all the customers they can get?
Well, one of the things that I did when I was in the legislature is I authored a bill, PA 240, which was the ORV access bill, allowing access to local roads. That produced about a 20% increase in ORV stickers. So we know that was a big influx of cash into the local communities. Communities like St. Helen really benefited from that. And over in Missaukee County, which is more of a farming area, I talked to people over there, and it was a big deal for them as well. So all over Northern Michigan, which it was very tough to pass that bill because no one in Lansing was in favor of it. The state police hated it, the MDOT hated it, the County Road Association next door here didn't like it either. The governor was going to veto it, but I went to the governor ahead of time and told her, if you want me to vote on this particular bill, you're going to have to sign the ORV bill if I get it to you. And that's how that worked out.
Gotcha. All right. So obviously a lot of experience in getting things done for Northern Michigan and Michigan. So how are you going to continue that if you're elected to the state Senate in this upcoming election?
Well, I left the legislature in 2010. I was formerly a state representative for the 103rd House District. And I worked all over the nation passing legislation. Over 50 bills to my credit, where I authored or provided language to, selected sponsors, testified before the committees. I've presented before the Federal Trade Commission. There's a wealth of experience that I have in getting legislation done. Some of these states, you have 45 days to get the bill done. That's it, 45 days, or mostly part-time. So I'll use that experience in Lansing. Another one of the projects I did that was a big economic driver was in Oscoda, Wurtsmith Air Force Base. When I first got into Lansing, there was a need for a wide-bodied aircraft repair facility for Coletta Air. We had to get some funding for that. I was able to get my first term, my first 2 years, $5 million earmarked in the capital outlay bill, which Governor Granholm vetoed. So the next session, I put it in a bill that she could not veto. And I was warned that would ruin my political career, that going against someone that powerful is not a good idea. You better think it over before you do it. And I thought it over and said, it's too important, and I did it. Now, what has happened since that time? Representative Peter Battaglia, the late Peter Battaglia, was able to get, I believe, $2 million out of the state to build a second hangar after I left. And now Oscoda is building the third hangar from the profits of the first two. So that's how you have to fight like heck, because no one cares about Northern Michigan. One of the speeches I gave on the House floor was, people down here want the 3 Ps for Northern Michigan. Keep us pure, keep us pristine, and keep us poor. Now the first two I understand and I agree with, but the last one I'm dang tired of. And so that's why I worked hard to bring grant money to Northern Michigan, and that's only a few of the examples where I did that.
Yeah, definitely. It can be tough going when you're working with Democrats and Republicans going at each other. Off camera, you mentioned that you are a central Democrat, I believe is the term you use, centrist Democrat. Can you tell us and our viewers what exactly that means? Well,
centrist Democrats are the way that politicians used to be. If you look back in history, they work together. If you go on my website, joelsheltrown.com, you will see a clip on there from Senator Tom Casperson, a Republican senator from Escanaba. And a clip was his farewell speech on the Senate floor, and that was in 2018. And he talked about working with Joel Sheltrown, and what he learned by working with Joel Sheltrown was that if we work together, if we find ways to work together, it was hard to divide us. Tom and I worked really well with natural resources, being both in Northern Michigan. And what he learned was, if we can find ways to do that, Democrats and Republicans work together, we're unstoppable. Those were the words that he used. So you cannot be far left and you cannot be far right and expect any cooperation. I was just down in Lansing yesterday, and the overwhelming thing that I hear down there from organizations like PAA, GCSI, to the large organizations that talk to legislators and try to get legislation done all the time. It is toxic down there. It is, no one's cooperating. It's just extreme. Is the only other way I can put it. I'm concerned about that because that is not good for the state. It's not good for Northern Michigan. And that and other reasons are why I decided to leave the private sector and run for office.
So when it comes to the environment, what kind of things do you think we should be focusing on here in Northern Michigan?
Well, one of the things that we should have concern about is Line 5. I take a position where I would like to explore the tunnel portion of that and see if that can be done, and it has to be done quickly. I have a friend who his job is to pick up pilots, ship pilots that navigate the Great Lakes. And he mentioned that their pilots were some of them were concerned about I think probably twice now that line has been hit. I know once for sure. And we have to protect that resource, whether it's Asian carp, whatever it is, the Great Lakes. We have water here, and everybody else seems to be running out of it, and we have to watch for diversion. We have to protect against that, and we have to protect the fishing industry that's involved with that. It's extremely important. And it's some of the things that I did when I was in the legislature. My job was chairman of natural resources. For 4 years I had that, and it was heavily involved in oversight of the DNR, Great Lakes environment, that kind of thing. And so I'm going to bring that experience back again to Lansing.
Yeah, and you mentioned Line 5. A leak from Line 5 would, go right into the Straits of Mackinac and, spread that everywhere. So are you saying that you'd like to see it shut down, or you just want to see the tunnel first?
I would rather explore the tunnel. And there are different arguments on this side. And you really have to delve into this issue because there's a lot at stake. There's the protection of the Great Lakes. There's also how much is this going to cost the Northern Michigan, our UP friends? How much is that going to cost? We have to be cognizant of that as well. I don't think it's going to be that bad if we did shut it down, but I don't know for sure, and I'm going to find out. But in the end, a centrist would look at this situation and say, the tunnel makes the most sense. Let's build a tunnel. We have machines that can do that and do that quickly. We should be doing it now. The Army Corps of Engineers is asking for more information. I guess trying to figure this out. I'm an impatient man. I always have been. I go through the legislature with a baseball bat if necessary to get things moving. But that's where I am at it. Is probably look at the tunnel, and if that is not a viable solution, then we'll have to shut it down. We cannot afford to have this risk out there.
So we covered quite a bit so far, Joel. Is there anything you'd like to tell Northern Michiganders when it comes to this upcoming election and why they should vote for you?
Well, I represent someone who can get along with both sides. I spent a lot of my career sitting on the Republican side of the aisle, and you're selected to do that because you have the ability to get along with the other side. That's who they put over there. There are other things. It's just a ton of things. The last thing that is education. I think we have to talk about that. The governor talked about one-on-one tutoring. 1984, Dr. Bloom, Benjamin Bloom, did a study about one-on-one tutoring and how effective that was. I do governmental affairs for a company called Capiche.io, which has online tutoring platform, is experiencing a 28% increase in student grades in the most difficult subjects. And they also provide a coach. We have coaches for football, basketball, whatever, but we don't have coaches for education.
Right.
So these coaches are in contact with a student twice weekly, and what they do is they hold you accountable. They help you set goals. They tell you where you need work, just like a football coach would. And that's how we are able to get 28% increase, and it's $100 a month. That's the cost. Online tutoring, one-on-one live, anytime you want it, 9 o'clock at night when you get home to do your homework. It's something that we need to look at in Michigan.
All right, thanks for touching on education there, Joel. I appreciate it. I missed that one. But is there anything else any last message you'd like to give our Northern Michigan viewers? Usually
people will ask this question, why are you running? And why I'm running is I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I am extremely concerned about what's happening to our democracy. And I never thought I would see the day when I would be concerned about something like that. But I certainly am now. My state representative right now is under investigation. And this just cannot stand. We have to protect voting. We have to make sure that everyone's vote counts, and we have to make sure that the process is fair and equitable. And all of our township clerks, all of our county clerks are doing everything, Democrat or Republican, to ensure that that happens. I know that because I know how seriously that they take that job. And I think that it's necessary for me to be there to protect that. All right, Joel, those are all the questions I have for you. Thank you so much for coming in. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you. All right. And Joel's going to be going up against Michelle Hoidinga, and that ballot is going to be on November 8th, everybody. Thanks for joining us.